Welcome, let's study this Poison Spark build. Imagine, if you will, Spark, the favourite of many spellcasters of all sort, but employed this time not to deal any meaningful hit damage, but to inflict poison instead. Since the removal of Phantasmal Spark, it wasn't something one could easily do, but now it's rather simple. One of the very few limited ways to poison with any type of damage is to wear the inextricable Fate Boots. But first, you have to apply at least 3 Grasping Vines on an enemy. 3.25 introduced Vine Spike Cordial Anoint Only Notable that causes you to apply 1 Grasping Vine on hit during any Life Flask effect. Life Flask stops working as you reach maximum life, so to have it up whenever you want, you have to allocate Pathfinder's Master Surgeon. And it's not a big issue since Pathfinder specializes in poison with their Master Toxicist and Nature's Reprisal, so you would probably want to choose this class anyway. It's hard to find a build having so good life recovery with such minimal thought put into it. The recovery from Flask can be applied to Energy Shield and combined with Eldritch Battery to never run out of mana, thanks to the replica Sorrow of the Divine Flask. The damage heavily depends on projectile speed, skill effect duration, and the area size, which is a highly unusual set of parameters. It's excellent in tight corridors and small boss arenas, and it takes some time for the damage to ramp up as you have to first hit an enemy 3 times for the poison to work. And the build is very durable, not only because of its top-of-the-line recovery, but also high maximum hit it can take. Your physical damage, reduction, and maximum resistances are very high, and the recovery is sourced from a Life Flask, Defiance of Destiny, and Instant Life on hit. Clear Speed is excellent on corridor-type maps with high mob density like Toxic Sewer or Crystal Ore. It's bad on maps like Stagnation. Pathfinder's Poison Proliferation definitely helps. If it's too low, it probably means you need more projectile speed. Single target damage is also dependent on arena size, but it's generally good. It ramps up slowly, a common nuisance of many poison builds. Pay attention to the jewels and quiver prices. Widow Hail and some of the rare items may be slightly expensive, but overall it's an affordable build. Gearing up is straightforward because you use many unique gear pieces, and fixing your resistances and attributes is surprisingly easy. You can also assume that all of your flasks will be always active if you invest a bit into flash charge, recovery and such. Widow Hail. There are not that many good mods on a rare bow. It's preferred to increase the modifiers of your quiver instead. You will need a Widow Hail with at least a 200% roll. Doppelganger Guise is the most efficient way to mitigate physical hit damage, which would otherwise be a major issue in this build. Stay sane. Inextricable Fate is a core element of the build. With Vine Spike Cordial and Life Flask and Master Surgeon, you will apply Grasping Vines on hit with Spark. These boots will let you poison with any type of damage as long as the enemy is affected by 3 vines. Inextricable Fate are also great boots on their own. Asenath's Gentle Touch applies Temporal Chains on hit and explodes enemies on kill. It's a great improvement to Clear Speed, which saves you buttons to press. The Tides of Time Belt provides you with Life Flask charges and increases life recovered from flasks. The Mana Flask aspect of this belt is not important. Defiance of Destiny is one of the best amulets defensive-wise. You have good passive recovery from a Life Flask, but the proactive recovery before you get hit will save you if that's not enough, which can happen in dire cases. Militant Faith. Socket it near Shaper Notable. You're only looking for specific devotion modifiers, not a keystone. These are elemental resistances per devotion and elemental damage per devotion. You will pair it up with Unnatural Instinct. Rational Doctrine. Balance your strength and intelligence, making them higher than dexterity. You will now be permanently affected by Consecrated Ground and your enemies by Profane Ground, which boosts your damage and survivability. You'll likely have to use tattoos on your dexterity travel nodes. You will need 2 of the Thread of Hope jewels. 1, with a massive ring socketed near Eternal Youth Keystone, will let you allocate 5 good notables. The other one, with a large ring sandwiched between Infused and Frenetic notables, will allow you to allocate another 5 useful notables. Check POB to see which ones to pick. Socket the proper Light of Meaning near Supreme Ego to increase your chaos damage substantially. Find a version of the Impossible Escape with Chaos Inoculation and remotely allocate all the notables in its radius. Socket your Unnatural Instinct near Harrier Notable. It will grant you more devotion due to its overlapping radius with Militant Faith. Watcher's Eye, you're looking for a Vitality mod for life on hit since you hit very often. Vitality also has a great mod that increases life recovered from Flasks. Your other auras are Malevolence and Haste, both containing some of the best modifiers, but don't prioritize them over life on hit. The build requires a very specific rare helmet and quiver. Only your rings and clustered jewels are not so strictly defined. In there you will need to patch up your missing resistances and attributes. With Rational Doctrine you have to be very precise with attributes or else it won't work at its fullest potency, if at all. Remember to use green tattoos that increase your projectile speed. On a helmet you will need Essence Crafted Reservation Efficiency, Extra Pierce, crafted but unlocked by unveiling, maximum life and a bit of spell suppression chance. For the Eldritch mods, get even more reservation efficiency and increased cast speed. To fit more projectile speed tattoos, you can go for dexterity here since it's a base with evasion anyway. And the quiver. 2 extra pierces can be crafted using an essence. Projectile speed is very important, you can get it as a suffix and as implicit on a feathered arrow quivers. After that look for maximum life, added elemental damage and resistances. Rings are a source of attributes, maximum life, and cast speed. Resistance may not even be needed. Craft a prefix that adds elemental damage given the opportunity. 12 passives, large cluster jewel with increased intelligence and increased effect of small passives is your best option. These small passives should also grant you some maximum life, strength, intelligence, or some type of resistance. Flask duration medium cluster jewel with spiked concoction for alchemist genius and brewed for potency is mandatory. Enduring composure from a small cluster jewel will generate endurance charges after getting hit, but if you lack mana, which you shouldn't, find a jewel that increases your mana reservation efficiency or efficiency of malevolence, haste only. Replica Sorrow of the Divine, Eldritch Battery makes your mana obsolete and you're now using ES instead of it. This flask also rapidly recovers your ES alongside life, so you'll never run out of this resource. With your exceptionally good life recovery, your survivability is bottlenecked only by hits that would one-shot you. Equip Progenesis Flask to receive less immediate damage from hits. Use a Saturated Divine Life Flask with Bleed Immunity. It recovers less life per second than an Eternal Life Flask, but it lasts longer, so you won't have to use it that often and it's easier to sustain the charge drain. Quartz Flask will fix your suppression chance, and Silver Flask will get you Onslaught. Their suffixes shall reduce the effect of curses on you, give you some extra elemental resistances if needed, or increase your movement speed. Given a choice of any spell in the game that you can poison with, Spark of the Nova seems like the best option, but only after investing heavily in skill effect duration, extra pierce, and projectile speed. Spark of the Nova is a slightly stronger version of Spark with a longer cast time. The most important difference is that it fires projectiles around the character, not in front of it. Link it with Spell Echo, Unbound Ailments, Elemental Focus, Deadly Ailments, and Cruelty Support gems. Malevolence increases skill effect duration and grants more damage over time. Both qualities are important. Haste increases movement, cast, and attack speed to boost your DPS and mobility. Skitterbots will chill and shock since you can't do it with Spark and Elemental Focus. It slows enemies down and increases your DPS output. Flesh and Stone stay in the Sand Stance. You will receive less damage from nearby enemies. Link all these spells with Enlighten to reserve less mana. You can reserve exactly all of it thanks to the Eldritch Battery. Void Sphere hinders an enemy, massively reducing its movement speed. Frost Shield drains your ES to form a dome inside of which you take less damage, especially from enemies outside of it. Immortal Call reduces incoming elemental and physical damage for a brief moment. Link these three with Cast when damage taken to cast them when enough damage is taken. Despair reduces chaos resistance. Poison is always chaos damage. Projectiles passing through the flame wall have added fire damage, which can poison. All damage can and will. We won't spend any mana to gain more stages for Sigil of Power, but ES instead, although it's still a boost to lightning damage, which poisons. Link these spells to an Arcanist brand and put it on bosses to boost your damage. Vitality is used not to regenerate life, but to unlock a life on hit mod on a Watcher's Eye. Keep it at level 1 with Arrogance. Vitality reserves life instead of mana. With a proper reservation mastery, your maximum elemental resistances are increased by 1%. Withering Step applies withered, grants, phasing, and elusive buffs. It's not your only source of withered, but it's 8 out of 15 stacks applied instantly. Hook it up to automation to have it active whenever it's off cooldown. Dash is used to dash around and move faster. You can replace it with other dash-like skills if this one doesn't suit you, like we did. Blink Arrow is what we prefer. Kill all bandits to receive 2 skill points, it's the best option. Soul of the Lunaris is what we'd recommend for a major god, as it offers a bit of protection against long-range attacks and increases your movement speed when it's needed the most. You're well adjusted to standing still and you need all the physical damage reduction you can get your hands on, so Soul of Tukohama may be the best suited minor god. And the passive skill tree offers skill effect duration, maximum life, reservation efficiency, spell suppression, poison damage, and damage over time. Elemental Overload forces you to go up, and taking a route through the center of a skill tree seems the most reasonable, since there are passives there that you want, and on top of that you can play with radius gems with these 3 jewel sockets near the Harrier, Shaper, and Sentinel. Get Magebane too for spell suppression. Select Damage over Time Mastery for increased skill effect and ailment duration, Duration Mastery for more duration, Poison Mastery to take no extra damage from critical strikes, and Reservation Mastery for extra maximum resistances if you have life and mana reserved. That is all for this guide. It's a great build for a specific type of content and for specific maps. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on popular and interesting builds. See you.